It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of TAXITV Live. My timing was excellent. Hello, you guys. Welcome to a new week and a new episode. Today, we are going to do Ask Michael Anything. What a concept. I'm always shocked how much you guys like these episodes. I guess so. I worked so hard to bring in really good guests, and then I do these shows, which are quite easy because all I have to do is answer questions. Everybody loves them. Aloha from Keneohe, Hawaii. I've been there. How are you? Is that Bill Gordon? It's funny. I was just talking to two of my coworkers here at Taxi, and was telling them about a friend of mine who actually lived in Keneohe. I can't pronounce it. He tried to help me with that. Anyway, beautiful. He had a house on the side of the hill looking out at Chinaman's Hat, I remember. Oh, my green screen's acting up a little bit. All right, I got it. Oh. Am I on? Everybody's saying hello to each other. Are you seeing me? Okay, you are. All right. So, ask me anything about taxi, engineering, production, mics and wires preferred, my feelings about AI music, or the music licensing business, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. And I've got a bunch of questions that are ones from previous episodes that we didn't get to, and I just keep like a running sheet of those. We had some get emailed in. I will get to those. And, of course, any questions you guys might have in the chat room. But let us get through. Let's start with the oldies but goodies, because I've been saving them for a while, and they're probably from like two or three episodes of this ago. And I'm going to give you guys a special treat somewhere in the middle of this. All right, let's jump right in. By the way, the road rally. I was working on road rally stuff already. I generally start around May 15th every year. This year, the Taxi Road Rally is going to be November 5th through the 8th here in Los Angeles. If you've never been to one, you are missing out on 50% of the opportunities to get your music signed and licensed, all that great stuff. Ask your fellow members in the chat room about the Road Rally. Ask them on the Taxi Forum. And check out the newsletter that will be coming out in about 10 days, I believe, because I was working on an article about the Road Rally last night. While everybody else was watching Euphoria or doing whatever people do on a Sunday night, yours truly was sitting at the kitchen table with this very laptop working on Road Rally stuff. All right, here we go. I need a throat lozenge. Liz is going to come running down here any second with a Ricola. Okay, want to know the mindset that can instantly and dramatically increase your chances of sync success. Let's see if anybody's going to guess this one. A change of mindset that instantly and dramatically increases your chance of sync success. I think I hear like the Jeopardy theme playing in my head while I'm waiting. Humility, nope. Never give up. That's a good one. I mean, both these are good. Submit, move on. These are all great. Write, submit, forget, repeat. All right, I'm going to tell you guys. I should have written it down. Now I'm drawing a blank on it. Oh, you are not in the old record business anymore. I am going to keep hammering this home. Come on in, Liz. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Ricola. They just got a free plug. All right. Now I'm talking to you with a Ricola in my mouth. I'm so sorry. Cry when it's returned. I like that one, Doug Ricketts. No, it's just, you're not in the music industry anymore. You're in the film and TV business. If you're pursuing a career in sync, you are part of the production. You are not the star, as opposed to, being on a record label or writing a song that's a hit. Then the song and the artist are front and center. And film and TV, you are like the set, like the lighting, like the sound person, like the person who wrote the script, all those things. So I think it was a music supervisor friend of mine that first said that on stage at the Road Rally, probably 8 or 10 years ago. He walked out there by himself in the middle of the stage and he said, "You know what, you guys, you think you're in the music business, right?" And they're all like, "Mm-hmm. Yep, music business." He went, "Nope, you're not. You're in the film and TV business." So think about that. Once you really absorb that and realize what role music plays in all this, it really does help you succeed much more quickly. I went out to dinner the other night. I can't talk with this thing in my mouth. Sorry, guys. Went out to dinner about 3 or 4 nights ago with my friend Biagio, who is actually on an upcoming episode of TAXITV. He's an executive producer, does a lot of TV shows, does a lot of true crime stuff. He can be a cameraman. He certainly knows how to edit. Executive producer of a TV show. They come up with the idea, they build it out, they flesh it out, they go pitch the network on it. If the network likes the idea. Do you know that for reality shows, for some of these shows, that the network doesn't give you money to go do the production? They say, "Yes, we want your show. You've got a green light. Go for it." The networks sign a loan or co-sign a loan. You go to the bank, get a loan, the network guarantees the loan, I guess is how it works, something like that. That was new information to me a while ago. I didn't know that. But anyway, my friend Biagio also composes legit music for film and TV and has used his own music in his own shows because he knows what he wants it to sound like. So rather than spending hours in an edit bay searching through 1,000 tracks or more, he can hear it in his head. He knows what works. So he sees music from an editor's perspective, from an executive producer's perspective, a showrunner's perspective. And I'm fascinated. Every time we go out to dinner, the meals usually last like 3 hours. I could just listen to him talk all night. So I've got an episode coming up. Let me check my schedule. Next week, May 18th. So don't miss that one because he's great. Okay, moving on to the next question. Somebody asked about two episodes of Ask Michael Anything, if I felt that they should focus on quantity or quality. And honestly, the answer is both. It shouldn't be such a mystery. Quality is assumed. People aren't looking for like, well, that's pretty good, or I really like that piece, but I wish the recording sounded a little better than a demo. No, they assume that you know how to build quality, in both in your composition, your songwriting, your engineering, your mixing, your production, all that stuff. But you need a lot of music out there. I know it's easy to believe. It's hopeful. You get something forwarded, a library signs it, and lo and behold, 9 months later, it ends up in a TV show. But we all know most of the money you're going to make most of the time is going to be the back end. It's going to take about 1.5 years or more to hit your bank account. And you don't know. It could be, you've got a 90-second instrumental cue, but they may only use 17 seconds of it. You don't make a lot of money on that. So the trick, this is where quantity comes into play, is you need a lot of those tracks out there. I just recently spoke to Matt Vanderbo, one of our most successful taxi members of all time, and asked him, he's got about 4,000 tracks in dozens of libraries. It took him years, like 15 years, to work up to that. And believe me, when he started, he really didn't know anything about making music for film and TV. He didn't even know how to run Pro Tools. But he figured it out, and here he is 15 years later, makes a very nice living. And it's because he thinks strategically. He thinks about, how many tracks should I give that library? How many tracks should I give another library? Should I give songs to this library that mostly does reality TV? Nope, that would be the right library to get your instrumental stuff. Another library, however, gets a lot of stuff in dramatic television, network broadcast kind of thing. So that would be where you put those eggs in that basket, a different library that has different clientele. So the bottom line is, you should think about quality all the time. That's just assumed. And quantity is something that you build up to, and you do get faster and faster. The more frequently you make this stuff, the more mistakes you make, the more epic fails you have. All those things really make you better for the quality side, and you get faster, so you can start cranking out the quantity as well. Common mistake that's made in the first 10 seconds of a track. I'll tell you what's killing your chances of landing placements. Yes, I will. That is not marketing hype. Here comes a truth bomb, and that is, nobody gives a damn about your intro that's supposed to help get people into your piece before it really starts. Intro, schmintro. Forget about it. You don't want to have an intro. Do something like this. Do that right up front and blast right into the red meat, baby. I play that little drum turnaround all the time because we had a very, very, very smart young lady named Laurel Ostrander, who's a very high-end and super capable video editor. Works on a lot of TV shows at the rally in, I don't know, 2022, 23, something like that, a couple of years in a row. And the last thing I asked her before she left the stage is, what if there's one thing that you would recommend to musicians, composers, artists creating music for film and TV that makes their music more desirable for you to use? You hear it and go, oh, now I'm interested. I might want to use this. And that was, she said, have a little drum thing like that up front. Have a little guitar lick. Whatever it is, it's literally a couple of seconds, and then you blast right into the red meat of the cue. Reason being, editors are working at breakneck speed. They don't have the time to sit there and go, I really like this intro. It's really helping me get into it. They just won't do it. So get rid of your intros. All right. I see people in the chat room are actually guessing this stuff. Good. Get right to it. No fuss, no muss. I could not agree more. Yeah, and it does kill. Let's say you've got 100 tracks out there in the wild, and every one of them's got like a 15 to 30-second intro. You've got 100 tracks that are highly unlikely to get used. Frankly, I would be surprised if a lot of libraries would sign stuff with long intros anyway. Okay, next question. Do you want to know how to land a deal without ever pitching to a taxi listing? Let's see if anybody in the chat room gets this one. And while you guys are coughing up that answer, I'm going to put this cough drop back in my mouth. Question again was, where'd it go? How to land a deal without ever pitching to a taxi listing. Yes! Sample Instruments 10 blasted the answer right out there. Come to the road rally. I was working on that piece for the taxi newsletter last night, and I spent a couple hours researching, going through. Sorry. I really gotta remember to do the cough drop before the show. Anyway, I spent a couple hours looking through Taxi's success stories. And it's astonishing to me how many people say, I'd been pitching for a year or two, wasn't having a lot of luck. I'd get a couple of forwards. They would go to libraries. Nobody was biting, or nothing was getting placed at any shows. And then people say, but I finally got off my butt, went to the road rally, and lo and behold, I met somebody at the mentor lunch, or we now call it the eat and greet luncheon. I got a 15-minute mentor session with a music library owner. They loved what I was doing. They said, I could take that track right now. Can you make me 10 more of those? So yeah, the road rally. I'm always amazed by how many members we have that don't go to the road rally. I don't, million excuses, but if you've wanted a career in the music business your whole life and you finally have a very real way to make that happen, would you go, I don't know, I'd have to take 2 days off work. Wow, I'd have to fly from Philadelphia all the way to Los Angeles. That's like a 4.5 hour, 5 hour flight. Oh man, blah, 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 blah. Sorry, got distracted by. So yeah, go to the road rally. I can't guarantee it's going to happen. Nobody can guarantee anything in the music industry, especially a deal or a placement or whatever. You will never have a better opportunity in your lifetime, no matter where you live, than coming to the road rally, meeting like-minded musicians, making new friends, new collaborators, meeting real industry people that will sit down, have a beer with you, that will spend 15 minutes with you at a mentor session, that will hang out with a group of you at night at the bar. I mean, it's so easy. And people come to the rally who have been socially maladjusted most of their lives, shall we say. I'm like that. I don't like crowds. I'm not a great conversationalist. I know, all personality on TAXITV. Take me to a wedding, take me to a party, and I will be the guy standing by the punch bowl waiting for my wife to come back so I've got somebody to talk to, unless somebody is there that wants to talk about the music industry or saltwater fishing. Then I will be a real conversationalist. Want to know why some taxi this was inspired. This one goes back probably 3 or 4 years. We have a taxi member who's the super nice guy. His name is Carl Lord. I can say his name because this is not negative in any way, shape, or form. It's actually quite positive. But Carl kept getting forwarded all the time and never had any deal offers. Literally hundreds of forwards and never had any deal offers. If I were in Carl Lord's shoes, I too would suspect that Taxi was forwarding that music straight to the trash can. Of course, we weren't. And he said, well, what's going on? How can I, it'd be one thing if I had 5 forwards, 10 forwards, 20 forwards, but I want to say it was like 300 forwards over 2 or 3 years. So I went into our database and started clicking on every one of those forwards, and I found the reason why. And this may be the reason across the board. People want to think, is it me? Am I less good, less talented? Somebody else is better than I am. No, the truth of the matter is Carl was making really good drones. Drones are boring. They're really hard to A&R. A few times that I've had to screen drones, oh man, you want to take a garden hose from the exhaust pipe of your car, run it through the window. God, it sounds like I've given that too much thought, and I just saw it in a TV show. Anyway, you want to kill yourself. Not that I'm recommending anybody should do that. I'm making light of it. But it's very, very hard to listen, especially when the drones aren't cue length at like 90 seconds, but they're more like 3 or 4 minutes. And Carl was making really great sounding drones, great sounding synths, great sounding strings in them, just the right balance of mood and vibe, not a lot of melodic movement to distract you, no little like ting, ting, ting bells or anything. doing a perfect job. He'd been forwarded all those times. I don't have a drone queued up, David, so I can't play you one, but it's just, imagine there's a scene where a space capsule is floating through space. Vice Television, remember Vice? I think it's still a channel. They used to get a lot of drones from Taxi, use a lot of drones from Taxi members. They would do, like a drug cartel. They would go behind the scenes of the drug cartel down in South America or Mexico or somewhere. And when they're driving across the desert on the way to this hidden location, they would play a drone. Anyway, Carl, I would say 80 or 90% of his stuff that was forwarded were drones. And I really believe that that's the reason nothing got signed, is every single person, especially Vice, we knew like the VP of music at Vice pretty well. They were actually building an in-house library using Taxi members, and then the guy got promoted and dropped the ball on the whole project, which was heartbreaking because his assistant kept telling us, "Oh my God, we can't believe how much great music your members are making. This is so exciting." And then one day she called and said, "You're not going to believe this, but he got promoted," and they just completely dropped the ball on building their own in-house library. But she also mentioned that he was having her try and filter the best stuff to the top to present to him. And she said, it's painful listening to these drones because they're all pretty similar. They're all quite boring by intent. And you can't just listen to 30 seconds. You got to listen to the whole thing. Does it do something weird in the middle? Something that would take you out of a meditative state? Something that would blow the vibe of a scene? So you really have to listen to, like 2 or 3 minutes of whom. So there you go. That is my guess that the members who have 100 forwards, but 0 deals, probably in genres where the libraries requested it without thinking about how much time they were going to have to spend listening, and it's probably drone stuff. Also, you know what? I'm trying to think of a way to say this the right way. And that is, it might not be drones. Maybe it's something like some weird subset of metal music or subgenre of metal or something. And we don't get a lot of submissions forward from listings like that are really weird listings, but some library may have a need for it. But they had the need for a show that was going to be in 10 days. Can you see if you can find it for me? And then miraculously, they found something very quickly, much more quickly than they thought they ever would. But they've already run the listing through Taxi, and they're thinking, well, you never know. This could come up again in 6 months, 9 months, 5 years, whenever, and they will listen to the stuff and they will pull the good stuff to a file folder and say, well, next time that happens, then I'll reach out to these people and see if the music's still available. And if it is, I'll sign it and pitch it to that show or film, whatever. So there are a bunch of ways that happens. But I know for musicians, in your heart, in your musical soul, in your mind's eye, your music is all you're thinking about, and it's completely understandable. What you certainly wouldn't think about everybody else's. So in your mind's eye, that music is be forward by Taxi, and you imagine some executive sitting there just waiting to hear your music, because when they hear it, they're going to go, wow, that's the best music I've ever heard, got to sign that. And it's just doesn't really happen that way. Wow, Greg Carrozza's closing in on 100 forwards, not drones, before he got his first deal. Since then, I've signed nearly 1,000 tracks. Yep. So, there you go. Where am I in my sheet here? Oh, here comes the fun part. Yeah, so don't lose hope. Carosa is inspiring. I know him well. He's become a close friend over the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years or something. I respect him a great deal, not only at a musical level, but as a person. And so when he tells me something, I tend to listen because I love you, Greggy. I really do. Anyway, okay. I am going to, if everybody could pay attention for a couple minutes here. Little less action in the. I'm getting distracted by the chat room today. So the difference between an instrumental and an instrumental cue. I wrote in here. It's not just the length. The structure is fundamentally different. Well, as you guys saw, was it last week, I did an episode with Steve Barden, who has been a very long time Taxi member. He started his own library a few years ago. I don't have the book near my desk, but he wrote an incredibly excellent book. You know what? I'm going to go grab it and show you. If you're new and you don't have this book, get it. You have to have this book and Dean Crepane's books. Liz, if you could pop up links to this book by Steve and what's Dean's book called? God, I had 4.5 hours of sleep last night. Apparently I needed 7 or 8. Anyway, yes, books take a little effort. You got to read those babies, but so worth it. I watch people stumble through. They know what they want. I would love to get my music on TV. Isn't my music great? I keep working on making great music, but they don't understand the holistic aspect of the whole industry they want to be a part of. But yet, I mean, you can't even open, like a 7-Eleven or a hot dog stand or anything without, it's not just about great hot dogs. It's about location. It's about the color of your cart. It's about the marketing. It's about which hours should you be out there, all that stuff. It all culminates in a successful venture. Well, the same thing is true in the music business. It's not just about making great music. Dean Crepane's book, Demystifying the Cue, also Demystifying the Genre. I've got an upcoming episode featuring his latest book, which is called Cue Tips. Just great practical stuff. And you can learn. You come to the Road Rally, watch these TAXITV episodes, read these books, and let your life be transformed. Achieve that goal that you've wanted your entire life. I want to be in the music business. Well, this is it. This is not another scam operation out there. We've got opportunities for you. This is the real deal. We've been around for 34 years, 35 years in January of 2027 that this company's been around. And thousands upon thousands of members have lived that dream. And you can too, but it's not just about I wrote a great song or isn't this orchestral piece the best orchestral piece you've ever heard in your life. It's more than that. It's all this stuff. And this book, who did I have? I think it was Biagio was in my office, I don't know, a week or so ago, and he was trying to hold something up. It's hard to get this backwards thing right. Anyway, trust me on that. It's not just about the one great song. All right, I have to make the air conditioning a little chillier because this time of day, the dark blinds absorb the sunlight and it becomes like a convection oven in my office. And of course, the software that is supposed to be talking to my Nest thermostat takes like a minute to connect, but just now it did it rather quickly. Yay. Okay. Come on, baby. There we go. Okay, kids, pay attention because now I am going to answer that thing about the difference between an instrumental and an instrumental cue. An instrumental is typically more like a song. You could just take a song and just mute the vocal track and replace the vocal track with a main melody instrument. But when you do that, it comes out sounding a little cheesy. I always say it sounds like 101 strings doing the Beatles song Yesterday or something. I mean, great for an elevator. Great for an elevator. That's about it. But it's got an intro, could be 30 seconds. It's got a verse. It's probably got a pre-chorus. It's got a chorus. It's got another verse. It's got another pre-chorus. It's got another chorus. Then it probably goes into a bridge, comes out of the bridge, goes back into the final chorus, which repeats 2 or 3 times. That is song structure. It's classic, A, B, whatever, A, B, A, B, there's a C in there for the bridge. Song structure. And yes, you can just mute the vocal. I always recommend doing what I came up with this term. I don't know if anybody else would ever use it, at least not in public, but called melody light. Yeah, you could do the vocal melody, but only hit like every 3rd or 4th note, something that still gives you melodic movement in the piece, but doesn't sound like, 101 strings doing Yesterday. Am I really dating myself that I even know what 101 strings are? Okay, so it's not just about the length. The structure's fundamentally different. I am going to play you guys one of the cues that we used in the Steve Barden thing so that you can see. Move this out of the way. I'm my own director, producer, technical director, live video editor, all that stuff. And I thought I was just an audio guy. All right, so we're going to listen to this Bluegrass cue that comes from Barden's library. We played it on the show last week, but you're also going to see the waveform. And that's the important thing, is listen to the cue and watch the waveform, and you can see how it's not structured like a song. This is a little bit of an oddball structure for a cue, but still very much a cue. And I want you to watch the waveform so that you can actually see where the edit points are. You can see that it grows dynamically. You can see its sectionality. All these things are really appealing to an editor, and they will look at the waveform before they even hit the play button, because if it's just monotonous and flat and just repeats the motif over and over until you just want to gag yourself, that doesn't qualify as a cue. There is actually a structure to a cue. Generally speaking, they get your attention, they start out kind of light, they grow, they go to a B section. Sometimes people just invert the chord progression or whatever. The B section in a cue is probably more akin to a bridge in a song, and then they go back to the A section, which is what I love to call the red meat, and repeat that, and then go to a finished button ending or a stinger ending. So here we go. We are going to listen, if the tech gods are with me, to this cue, Bluegrass cue, and just watch the sectionality, watch the dynamics, all that stuff. More instruments introduced here, makes it more interesting. More instruments introduced here, so it keeps it from getting boring. It's still the same motif. Edit point, boom. Another edit point coming up. Same motif, different approach, different instrument. We got a mandolin. There's the bridge section, B section. Same motif. Maybe the editor only likes this part because it's really simple. full band coming in for the finish. And there you have it. So, wow, look at that. Big tech accomplishment, right? You guys impressed? Anyway, they are real instruments, Peter Rahal. I guarantee you Steve Barden would not be using a sample for that. Anyway, that's a cue. It's not structured like a song. So here's something that most of you guys watching are probably longtime members. You've seen a million TAXITVs. And I'm sorry that I repeat stuff, but some of the people watching this episode are new or just starting to think about getting into sync. If you hold on to the belief that your entire piece is going to be used, that's what I was talking about at the top of the show, where you still think you're in the music industry. You're not. You're in the film and TV industry. So how much of that might be used? That cue, maybe just one little section that's 11 seconds long. They just need it to transition from this scene to that scene, or to help emphasize a point that's being made in a scene, whatever. They're going from the house to outdoors, and it's a country setting, and this starts to play. I'm gonna play it again, because I want you to think about that. Think about if you were an editor, you're not going to use the whole 90-second cue. It's extremely rare. Like less than 1% of the time does a whole cue or instrumental. For that matter, it's rare that a whole song gets used. Start paying attention to TV shows, and you'll notice that. So then you start to think about, sectionality. What can I give them? It's kind of like walking the aisle at a grocery store, where you go, oh yeah, I need some tangerines, need some lemons, need some limes, need some bananas. I think tonight I'm going to make a banana cream pie, so I'm going to get more bananas. And that's how editors think. They think, what do I need? What solves this problem in this scene for me? What makes the emotion hit harder, deeper, or last longer? What makes the action more exciting? That's the role that music plays in media. So you, as a musician providing music for them, you have to think like, I'm giving them tools. I'm giving them the ingredients they need that help them solve their problem as they move really quickly through editing their show. By the way, the episode I've got coming up with Biagio tried to go through the entire process, literally from you get the phone call, we want you to edit our show. What happens next? What happens after that? What happens after that? Who's in on the conversation? How long do you have to do this? How long do you spend on the rough cut? How many revisions do you have to do after you hand in the first cut? How many times do you have to go back to the well and refine it? Is it twice, 3 times, 5 times? Who are the people that are giving notes? Is it just the executive producer? Is it people from the network? And do they hold sway with the executive producer, or is he the last word, he or she? We discussed all that stuff, and it's really, really good. Okay, so yeah, let's listen to that one more time and start to think about, as you watch the waveform, think about the sectionality. Think about if you were an editor and you only needed a piece, which piece would you use, for what, and why? I just want to impress you guys with this incredible tech setup I did today. So this piece with the mandolin. That's about 8 seconds right there. So that might be enough for a little segment. Yay. Pretty darn cool. All right, so you got the picture now. Now you know the difference between a cue and an instrumental. Cues are built to be edited. Wow, I think that might be the first time I ever said that. And I've said a lot of stuff over and over about cues over many years. All right, let's move on. Want to know how to understand your first contract when a music library offers you a deal? I'll give you 2 really easy ways, 2 great solutions for that, and neither of them requires you paying an attorney $500 an hour. And trust me, finding an attorney that will just spend 1 hour, it kills me when taxi members go, yeah, I was presented with a contract from this music library, but I ran it by my music attorney, and he said, absolutely do not ever sign this contract. They're ripping you off. Well, it was their cousin George who became a real estate attorney, and for an elective while in law school took 1 entertainment law semester course. Knows nothing. Actually, you know what? Most music attorneys that do big record deals, that sort of stuff, they don't know anything about the world of independent musicians licensing their stuff through libraries to film and television. They don't know because it's always been considered small potatoes by them. But guess what? It's turned into a huge industry. And trust me, there aren't that many people who've gotten a record deal, had a hit record, and ended up retiring on as much income as our most successful taxi members that make 6-figure incomes, and that money will keep coming in. When they're at Shady Acres Rest Home someday, that income will still be coming in, even though they're not still making music. It'll start a slow decline over time, but it'll still be substantial and come in for a very long time. Those deals that they signed with libraries will go to their heirs if they set up a will and trust properly, all that good stuff. So, the number one, I just discovered this myself about a year ago. I was working on something that was outside of taxi, and it required a contract. And I had to spend about $4,000 to pay this attorney to draft the contract for something that I thought was really easy, would only take him an hour or 2. But you want to bring out the big guns. Don't hire the cheapest attorney. I despise paying lawyers. The only person on the planet that I ever despised sending a check to more than an attorney was my ex-wife. But I just hate it. I always feel like I'm being ripped off, with the exception of a couple of attorneys that I've met in my lifetime. But for the most part, I've been just astonished at how they will drag things out because they get paid by the hour. Time is their inventory. I get it. They want to earn a living. But, you have no way to know. Did they come up with that clause? Did they have it already stored in their computer? Did they use AI to write it, which is becoming more and more of a problem? But AI serves a really good purpose. When you get a production music library contract offered to you, don't call up the owner of the library and ask him or her to explain the legalities of the contract. You don't understand this word. You don't understand that clause. Well, of course you don't. You're not a lawyer. You're not somebody who's signed a bunch of library contracts yet. But here's the greatest thing in the world. Dump it into ChatGPT or any of the other commonly known AIs, large language models, and the only prompt you have to give it is, please explain this contract to me in plain English. And I did that when I got the contract back. because the person I was signing the contract with called me up and said, "Can you explain this clause to me?" Because he didn't want to spend money on an attorney. Uh, so I said, you know what? I'll get back to you in about an hour. And I went and put it into ChatGPT, if memory serves, maybe Gemini, I don't know, whatever I was using that day. And it basically took every single sentence of that contract and wrote it in plain English. So I called him back and said, well, that clause says this. And he went, oh, thank you. So I've been doing that ever since, and it works like a charm. Another great way to know if the contract that you have been presented with and you don't understand something about it, don't mention the library's name. Don't mention the library owner's name, but go to the Taxi forum at forums with an S, forums.taxi.com. There are dozens, probably a few hundred members, maybe many hundreds of members that have signed deals already, probably with the library that's offered you a deal. We just don't like putting the company names in there because a lot of people visit the forums that aren't part of the Taxi family, if you will. And they get the name of the company and just start hammering them, hey, check out my music. It's really awesome, dude. So we save them the pain of having to deal with a bunch of unsolicited emails from people that don't know the drill yet by keeping their names off the pages of the forum. But you could simply say, I just got a contract offered to me by a music library that everybody seems to know. If anybody else out there is willing to help me understand the contract, and somebody will. But frankly, then, look, what we all want to know is, has anybody else signed with this company? Did they screw you in any way, shape, or form? And you'll find out that they don't. Libraries are not in the business of trying to screw people. Am I going to try and make an extra 15% on that, $78.52 you're going to make from your PRO on that 7-second placement in a reality show that played at 2 a.m. last night? No. Why would they risk their entire reputation, their entire company, on trying to pinch pennies from poor, unsuspecting musicians that don't know any better? So you can check out the companies by, going on the forum and say, I want to check out, make sure their contract is kosher. Can anybody private message me? And I'll tell you the name of the company that offered the contract. Twice. We have literally run listings for thousands of companies in the 34 thousands. I want to say I'm doing this from memory, but I think I checked the database a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, and I was shocked to find there were like 4,000 companies in there that had run listings with Taxi. Only twice have we ever reached out to these companies and said, you know what, we don't want to do business with you anymore. I remember one of them very specifically. They weren't trying to screw anybody, but it left a really bad taste in my mouth. When we first start working with the company, we ask them what the deal structure is so that we can put it in listing and say it's exclusive, non-exclusive, in perpetuity, not in perpetuity, whatever. So whatever they told us the deal was the deal that we referenced in the listings, and we worked with them for like a year or so. All of a sudden, we start getting a barrage of telephone calls and emails from our members saying, they're not offering the deal that you said in the listing. So I called up the owner of the company, goes, oh, yeah, we decided not to be a non-exclusive company anymore. We flipped over to exclusive only. I said, well, thanks. You just made us look not very good in the eyes of our members because we were putting wrong information out there. A simple email, hey, by the way, we are now an exclusive catalog, would have been great. So I was so upset that I just said, you know what, let us shake hands and walk away as friends, but we're not working together anymore. Okay, there's that. My next question kind of relates to what we've already talked about, how to create a developmental arc that makes an editor pick your track over others. We covered that, so not even going to bother elaborating on that. Want to know how to avoid sterile sounds in your home studio. We hear this every day at Taxi. I used to hear it back when I was one of the screeners in the first few years of the company. And back then, home studios were largely, Pro Tools wasn't even a thing in the early 90s. If you were lucky, you had an Alesis ADAT, which used half-inch VHS tape to record 8 tracks digitally. Sounded pretty good, worked pretty well. You could gang 3 of them together and have a 24-track machine for like $10,000. Certainly cheaper than buying a Studer. Anyway, MIDI. MIDI makes stuff sound sterile because it's just too locked to the grid. And sometimes people are so busy going, wow, I love this composition. I love this song they wrote. They're so in love with that piece of music and so happy it's coming out well that they're not looking at the big picture. And the big picture might be that it sounds a little sterile. It sounds a little too locked to the grid. So what can you do to make your tracks sound more human and put more emotion, more feel, and not make them sound like as one person sitting in a MIDI studio? That is, play it by hand. At least play some of the parts by hand. It just brings back some of the humanity in the tracks. And I'm talking about even, sampled parts. Even if you've got it done in MIDI, play it by hand. Because those little imperfections that your digits will impart on that keyboard, boy, I sound like a college professor today. Those little imperfections actually make the tracks better. And especially if you're doing things, I hate it when, I've got to admit, I will admit, I'm an acoustic guitar nut. I love recording great sounding acoustic guitars or taking mediocre sounding acoustic guitars, making them sound amazing. But the samples today have gotten so good that it's pretty mind-blowing. And I've heard stuff where people send in acoustic guitar samples in their tracks, but they do them with MIDI. And it's like, So my advice is, if you can play a guitar track on an actual guitar, add that in. If you can add a tambourine, if you can add a hand drum, anything, even a shaker. Somebody I had on the show recently said, just a shaker. Take one of the little egg shakers and just play that by hand. It automatically will make your track sound 10 to 20% better by just doing that with the egg shaker. So there you go. That gets rid of the sterility. I've mentioned this before, but how to dominate a genre and kill the competition in a music library catalog. So you've already gotten forwarded by Taxi, and let's say you do a dramedy cue. Well, most libraries, especially the ones that concentrate most of their efforts on doing reality shows or non-scripted TV, most of those people will have a lot of dramedy cues, maybe dozens to a couple hundred in their catalog. And a dramedy cue, if anybody is new that's watching this, is that pizzicato string stuff that you'd hear in Desperate Housewives when one of the ladies was like sneaking around the bushes on the outside of her next door neighbor's house, trying to look through the window to see if her husband was next door having an affair with their best friend. And you'd hear doo 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 doo. Generally kind of sneaky, sometimes a little quirky. And it almost always has pizzicato strings, some sort of mallet instrument, probably not a glockenspiel, anything with what are the marimbas with the wooden tines. Those two things are almost always in most of those tracks. So how do you avoid being one of 112 dramedy cues? That's a lot of competition. There's no competition at Taxi because we don't pick one over the other. Is it on target for what the listing asks for, and is it quality enough that we can forward it? We do. We never play one against the other. But once you're in that catalog and an editor is choosing which one to go with, if they've got 112 dramedy cues, your odds of getting picked just aren't that great statistically. It's 1 in 112. So we had a very long-time member who did something quite brilliant. He was our first member, as far as I know, to ever break the $100,000 mark. And this was back in the probably late 90s, early 2000s. And he wasn't like a trained composer or anything. He was actually an audio engineer living here in the San Fernando Valley, and got a song picked up somewhere and went, I bet if I did more of these, I could make more money. And he was right. His trick, and I've interviewed him about this, is doing the genres that nobody else will do. And his chosen path was to do ethnic music. We need Japanese music. We need Polish music. We need French music. We need Italian music. We need klezmer music. We need Gregorian chant music. And you're thinking, well, I can't play all that stuff. Neither could he. But he figured out how to do it. And it's not like, his name is Matt Hurt. I know him very, very, very well. Known him for, 25, 30 years probably. Consider him a good friend, and he has told me over and over and over again. He said, "Yeah, he's from Switzerland. He's back living in Switzerland now, but he's got a pretty strong Swiss accent." He goes, all you have to do." And for those of you who know Matt are laughing right now at my very bad imitation, but it's just zig when everybody else is zagging. And I did an episode of TAXITV with him live at his house in his little studio area, which had like no equipment. It was just part of the living room. He had like a big keyboard. I can't remember what kind of computer he was running, but nothing, terribly fancy. He didn't have any acoustic treatment, and he didn't have any fancy, monitors. It literally looked like somebody just set it up an hour ago. And he would laugh at it. It's not fancy. But he would sit down and he would analyze Japanese music, and then he would go buy a sample pack of a koto or whatever other instruments are commonly heard in Japanese music, and he would listen to it and go, oh, okay, so I have to do this, I have to do that. There were some times where he needed something in Chinese and sung in Chinese, where it wasn't just an instrumentalist, and he would go find himself a Chinese singer, male, female, whatever, that could help him on the lyrics and then sing it, and he would do a collab with them, probably split 50-50 with them for them helping. Anyway, my point being, he's probably done many hundreds, maybe even a few thousand instrumental cues. Romany. I've never even heard of a genre called Romany, but it's basically, and I think you're not allowed to say this anymore, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to use the word gypsy, because it's basically gypsy music, okay? And that became politically correct at some point, but let's face it, everybody still thinks of that word in their head, and that describes the music. If you say gypsy music, you know what somebody's talking about. I had never heard of Romany music, R-O-M-A-N-I. So cancel me if you must, but at least I made my point, and that is that things that you would never think of. Well, yeah, do dramedy cues get used every day all over the industry? Yes, they do. But you are one of probably tens of thousands of dramedy cues in aggregate within all the different libraries that are out there. But on the day that somebody needs Romany music, I'll bet you that there are only 4 tracks in a library. Zig when everybody else is zagging. And that's how Matt Hurt built a 6-figure career, by just doing that. It just makes so much sense. Now, here's the kicker, is we have been getting a lot of listings. Libraries are starting to recognize that maybe they shouldn't be competing with everybody else and offering up the same type of music. Maybe they should be stronger in these ethnic music genres. And they're running listings quite frequently with us, and it's embarrassing how few submissions we get. Because I'm pretty sure our members are going, well, I'm not going to go buy myself a $39 Koto sample pack or Japanese instrument sample pack. I'm just going to make a dramedy cue. Great, you made a dramedy cue, you got a forward. A library offered you a deal, you signed the paperwork, and now you're one of 112 dramedy cues or tension cues or whatever kind of cues. But there won't be a lot of Koto tracks. There won't be a lot of Romani tracks. I can't think of any other weird genres. But, I was so kind of upset by this stuff that I was here working 2 Sundays ago. It's been a very long day here at the office. And at one point, I needed to take a break from whatever I was working on. So I decided to go listen to a bunch of ethnic music tracks. Do you have to come across like somebody who had spent your entire lifetime in Japan, went to, some fancy school to learn how to play the koto? No. You just need to buy a koto sample pack and just put in salt and pepper. That's all you need to do. Just add little trills, most of the time it's going to get used in a travel show. And they need the music to establish the place. Here we are walking through a fish market in Japan on a sushi chef show. And here's the sushi chef at 4 o'clock in the morning buying his fresh fish at the market. You're going to hear Japanese music, and there you go. Is anybody watching that show going to be judging your music? No, because you're in the film and television business now. You're not in the music business. Remember that? So your music is a piece of the puzzle. You know you're in Japan when you see the scene because there are a bunch of people that are Japanese in the scene. You know you're in a Japanese fish market. The music is part of that thing that establishes the time, the place, the vibe, all that stuff. So go buy a friggin' Japanese instrument sample pack. Go buy a Latin instrument sample pack. Go buy, what's the little accordion that they play in France and Italy? A lot of concertina, right? Go buy one of those. I'm telling you, you guys are missing the boat. Spend a few months acclimating, spend a few months getting oriented, develop a strategy how you're going to do it. Become the next Matt Hurt making a 6-figure income because you're doing what everybody else is not doing. Custom critiques. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about from my list, and I'm going to answer some of these other questions. Custom critiques. I forget to talk about them all the time. They cost $20. We end up spending $30 to pay the screeners. It's a money loser for us, but it's not a loser for you because I have people come up to me at the rally. I get emails about this. Members mention it in passing that they use the custom critiques vociferously and learn so much because custom critique is not done from the perspective of you've submitted for this particular listing and it is being judged and critiqued by the requirements in that listing. A custom critique is you send in a song, you send in an instrumental cue, we assign somebody who is expert in that genre, and they do whatever you need. They answer whatever you need them to answer. You could just get a general critique. Is this any good? Is it good for film and TV? Is it a good song? And they'll come back with stuff like song needs a bridge, song needs a pre-chorus, the vocal's so pitchy that it's kind of a turnoff. You really should get another vocalist. Things like that. Try a chord inversion here. I wouldn't go to the minor 7th there because it changes the whole mood of the song. Those are the kinds of technical things you'll get. But more importantly, you can ask specific questions. First of all, is this good? Is there anything you would change to make it more desirable for music libraries to sign or for editors to place or for a music supervisor to put in a show? And apparently, I've never gotten a custom critique because I don't have any music to submit to one. But the people who get them rave about them. So there you go. custom critique. Try it once or twice, see if you like it, because people say that it helped them move forward in leaps and bounds. I just have always felt guilty about selling a $20 critique. I feel like we're selling a $20 critique that the screener is getting paid $30 an hour, and they will spend a full hour on that baby. So it's much more elaborative than what you would get with the normal submission. So there's that. Okay, moving on. Doug Ricketts says they're quite dense. Who, the people writing them? No, means, I read one another member got, and it was extensive in a good way. Well, thank you for mentioning that, because people just shouldn't take my word for stuff. They should verify. This is from Cass Weinbren. Submitted a lot of questions. I'm just going to take a couple of these, because we're living in an audiovisual world now with having concept art, videos, lyric videos, and music videos be important for landing syncs, licensing deals, and publishing deals. Generally not. It comes down to the music. Nobody is going to say, oh, let's put Cass Weinbren's song in this scene in this TV show because he has great cover art on his CD. Or I saw a lyric video on YouTube about it. It's all about the music, and you know what? The vast majority of placements you're going to get are going to come through production music libraries, and they honestly don't care about that stuff, because there's no way for them to uniformly input that into their catalog. If they made all that stuff available for you, but it wasn't for other music and other people in their catalog, it would be weird, look unprofessional, disorganized. So no, there are several. If I had to put a guess, I'd say 15-20% of the companies. There's a trend that started about 5, 6, 7 years ago where I think it started mostly with music for TV commercials, where they wanted, are you a working band? Are you a real artist? And I know people who are just studio rats that make stuff just for the sync world. They're not really a working band, but they get photos, they build a fake backstory, they do all this stuff because they know that the music supervisors working on stuff for ad agencies, meaning TV commercials, for some reason they have this passion for using real artists. Do they get faked out a lot? Pretty sure they do. But I've asked, why do they want a real artist? Well, there's a story there. Really, does somebody who's watching a TV commercial for shaving cream really give a rat's behind that there's a story behind the music that you can barely hear in the shaving cream ad? I do not get it. I don't. I'm sure that somebody out there gets it and can come up with a better explanation than what I just gave you. But no, Cass, you don't need to do all the things that you asked. You also asked, does having a lot of followers help land deals now? Record deals, yes. Absolutely. You have to have, and having 1,000 or 2 is not enough. You'd have to have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Millions would be awesome. Then you would be driving the terms of that deal. But as far as film and TV goes, not really. Again, it comes down to the music. Does the music fit in the scene? Does it help the editor make the scene better? Will it make the editor's boss, the executive producer, go, wow, good choice of music. Glad you put that in there. Make the guys at the network go, man, I really like the sonic palette of this show. You guys picked good music. If you want to get a quick, easy to digest education on what I consider to be a really good use of music in TV show, watch the TV show Landman with Billy Bob Thornton. It's a Taylor Sheridan series. They're always great. They use a lot of songs, even the instrumentals in that one. Just watch it and absorb how the music is used, what the lyric is saying in a certain scene. You may only hear one line of that lyric, but it will be apropos for the scene that it's in. It just makes the scene 5 or 10 or 15% better. Anyway, that's a show that I can recommend that you start with to start understanding how music is used in quality TV shows. Um, Will Taxi ever show locations for companies? For example, a company based in LA is looking for X kind of music. Yeah, we've been doing that for 34 years. Frankly, I'm taking that out. I'm the last set of eyes on the listings before they go to the people on staff who set them up in the emails. Um, we used it a lot more when we did the majority of what we were doing was for record labels, because let's face it, Los Angeles based record label is more impressive than a Philadelphia based record label. A Nashville based country label is certainly more credible than a Jacksonville, Florida record label. But as far as film and TV goes, the production music libraries, they're all over the world. It doesn't matter. You could have production music library in Peoria, Illinois. Doesn't matter where it is. So there's just no point in telling you guys. And our listings are so long and so descriptive on so many levels that they're getting so long that I literally go through and take out stuff if it is absolutely not necessary, like a San Diego based music library. Really? Who cares? Who cares where that music lies? I'll take out San Diego base. I just saved 3 words. So there's the answer to that. All right, let's move on to somebody else. Oh my gosh, everything on this page is about Suno. Did I say that with disgust in my voice? I didn't mean to. It's just, I think I said in my thing that went out today, I'd be happy to talk about my feelings about AI. I don't want to act as an attorney or copyright expert regarding AI, so I'm not sure if I can really answer these well. If I put my fully copyrighted original song with melody, lyrics, and chords into Suno to hear a different gender vocal, did I just lose any of the rights to my song? Well, he's got a couple of questions in here. Um, I don't know. They have changed their terms and conditions like 3 times in the last 6 months. And so I honestly don't know what it is. But I know that if you're a paying Suno customer, paying, not using the free version, you forfeit all rights. Um, if you're a paying customer of Suno, the last time I checked, and this may or may not be true today, and let me be clear, I am not a music attorney, okay? This is for educational and entertainment purposes only. But last I was aware that if you were a paying customer, and this may have changed, you had the right to use that music that you created in Suno in any way, shape, or form and monetize it in any way, shape, or form. I'm not sure about who holds the copyright. I don't know. But I think I also heard this was in a conversation, I think with Rob Shirelli or somebody over at dinner recently, that yeah, you can use it, monetize it in any way, shape, or form, but I believe Suno can as well. So to me, just personal opinion, not legal opinion, because I ain't no music attorney, but if Suno can use your music as well, can't they then use it to train their brain, their AI, so other people are going to be making music on Suno that is derivative of some portion of your music, possibly? I don't know. It's complicated. And frankly, Copyright Office, the PROs, they all need to get their act together. None of this, well, as long as it's substantially created by a human, everybody's going to freaking lie about that. We know that. I do know, and I have verified this, but this was 6 months ago, that if you put something into Suno and it sits on their server, even if you wrote it, when you input it to Suno or any of the AIs, I don't want to be picking on Suno. I don't have any bone to pick with them. And I have heard stuff that's come out of there that's just downright amazing. But if you put it in there, even though you created it, it is now on their server. So, by what I learned not that long ago, your music, yeah, you still have the right to monetize it. You still have the right to use it any way you want. But other people may be creating music that was trained on your music that's on their server. And even though you originally created, wrote the lyric and wrote the chord changes and everything, um, did Suno come up with any extra parts? Did it change the melody in any way, shape, or form? Did it tighten up that lyric just a little bit? These are all issues. There is no definitive, easy answer to any of this. It's not only the Wild West in early days, but it exceeds the knowledge base of. No, it doesn't exceed the knowledge base. It exceeds copyright law as we know it. Let me ask you a question, because I do like to play devil's advocate on this stuff. And everybody, when AI first started to become really a thing and everybody was talking about it, it's like, it's going to kill all of our jobs. Have you used AI to do any cover art for your album? Come on, be honest. Because if you did, then you are doing to graphic designers the exact same thing that you didn't want to have happen to you as a musician. There are many, many examples of that. And I'm not going to judge anybody for that hypocrisy, but I do want to call it out for what it is. It's like, well, don't use AI in the area that I am in because you could hurt me. But I'm going to use AI for this other stuff because I don't care about those graphic designers. So I don't want to judge people on this issue, but I want to judge the lack of intense forward motion on solving these problems. I mean, if we're waiting, come on, let's face it, we're waiting for government to solve these problems, dear God. I think universal health care would be awesome, but I certainly wouldn't want any government I've ever met to run it. They can't run the freaking DMV. And these are the people right now that are trying to make the guardrails for AI. I don't think a government, any government, is capable of figuring it out. They move too slowly. They have a bunch of people that postulate about stuff they don't know enough about. I don't have a better solution, but I would bet that any government regulating AI is not the answer. I'm going to take a minute and scan because I see a lot of activity over here. The helium gremlin is back, huh? Very active tonight. Interesting. We got to figure this out. Liz, can you please remind me to Google this and find out if other people have figured out what causes this problem? It's clearly in Wirecast. Design my own cover art, yay. I'm releasing blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer this because I'm not an expert. I don't think any of us are expert because everything just changes like every week. I will tell you that we have a woman who is extremely well connected with K-pop and J-pop record labels, who happens to live in Los Angeles, and she was trained as a taxi screener. And whenever possible, she will screen her own material for stuff that she is taking back to huge, like multi-platinum artists on these big international labels. And they are always looking for great material. They're mostly looking for stuff that sounds kind of like American pop that can be J-popped or K-popped. So she runs listings, and when she screens her own stuff, she sent us an email the other day saying, "Oh my God!" I kind of remember she said something like 60% of the submissions she was screening had AI used. So we have times where the screeners are trained. If you think you're hearing AI, bring it to the attention of the head screener at Taxi. The head screener is using 3 or 4 different AI detectors, and we can't be forwarding stuff with AI to the best of our knowledge. We have to do our best effort to not forward stuff that's got AI in it, because if we do that and a library detects the AI, they'll say, hey, Taxi, you're not doing a very good job. If the library doesn't detect it and it ends up getting licensed in a TV show and there's a legal issue, but well, all I did was use a little bit of AI. Anyway, when our head screener reaches out to the members, where anybody in this chat room watching this episode right now would listen to this stuff and you go, yeah, I don't need an AI detector to tell you that's AI. And when he reaches out to the members, they will flat out lie about it over the phone, say, I did not use any AI. But if you go back and listen to their music before 2024, and it was not very good. Sounded like a poorly put together demo, and all of a sudden in mid 2024 started to get better. By 2025, these people were writing hit songs and producing incredible tracks, not using AI. They will flat out lie about it. They don't seem to understand that, God forbid, your song got forwarded by Taxi, got forwarded to somebody in Nashville, ended up getting cut by a big artist. And then they find out that you didn't write it, AI did. You are going to be in the pages of the Hollywood Reporter and Billboard and whatever. You're going to get publicly crucified, burned at the stake for being the person that snuck the AI in. But you're not alone. I think a lot of people are doing it. So I just don't have any good answers for you on it. But my own personal feeling about AI is there are many ways to use it as a tool. The first one that I discovered was using it to come up with titles for instrumental cues. Not cute titles, not catchy titles. It's not about that. It's about titles that tell the editor who's whipping through, a bunch of edits, burning the midnight oil, and they need to find music quickly. They are going to pick stuff where the title tells them pretty much what it's going to sound like. Surf's Up. What kind of music is that going to be? So there you go. Country Road. What kind of music is that going to be? Pedal to the Metal. You would never want to title a song like that for an album, but Pedal to the Metal, that's going to be hard rock, heavy metal with a very driving beat and be great for an action scene, right? You know that by the title. AI is really good with helping that. Is it right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. Will 70 or 80% of the titles it spits out for a certain thing be pretty darn usable? Yeah. So there's one way to use it as a tool that you're not lying, you're not cheating, you're not going to get busted on it. You can absolutely do that. I believe that there are a lot of great songs out there with vocals in the wrong gender. So if you are pitching a demo, remember that word, demo. You're not pitching a track that an artist is going to use, but you're pitching a demo. But you want to pitch it to a female artist, and you should always pitch with the gender of the artist. The vocal on what you're pitching should match the gender of the artist being pitched to. So obviously you would not pitch, a male vocal to Ariana Grande. You want her to hear that and go, oh my gosh, I can so imagine myself singing that song. It could be a hit for me. So do I think that people should be allowed to take a male vocal and change the gender? Is there a trans joke in there somewhere? We certainly spent enough time talking about that. Wow, never thought about that. But anyway, yeah, you could absolutely get a great female vocal to make your song palatable and pitchable to a female artist using AI. I think that should be allowed. Should that vocal make it to a record? No, it should be a real artist. Okay, moving on. This is one from Gary Nobile. I'm trying to really fully understand the question. I wrote a complete song. Oh, I already did this one. I use Suno, do a full band production, provide a better vocal performance without changing any lyrics or melody. I release a song on Spotify or some other DSP. Am I opening myself up to a lawsuit where I would likely lose? Trust me, even if you were hit with a lawsuit and you win, you're going to spend so much money on attorneys that you're probably not going to own your house. And I'm not exaggerating that. Attorneys are now $500 an hour. And if you think something could be litigated in 2 or 3 or 5 or 20 hours, no. I once had a lawsuit that I won. It was a totally bogus, frivolous suit. Took 5 years. 5 years. And enough money out of my pocket that I could buy a house and pay cash in a lot of states in America. All because somebody was trying to get me to write them a $250,000 check. It's extortion. It's legal extortion. Had to go through it. You can't go, Your Honor, this guy's extorting me and using the system. They see it all day, every day. You have to go through the process. And you have to have a lawyer to do it. And the lawyer I had was $800 an hour because you want a big boy attorney that's been through the drill and knows this specific kind of lawsuit. And it dragged on for 5 years, and there's no way to speed it up. So if you think that you could be sued for something and, well, I'll eventually win, yeah, but you just spent $150,000 on legal fees to win. That's not winning. That's still losing. Here's one from Natalie Rich. I wrote a song in 2009, made it into a demo in 2012. Still have it. It's supposed to be an R&B song, but I made it into a country song. It's 2026. Yes, it is. Do you think my songs still have a chance of landing it into Taxi Music Producer? I don't know what that question means, Natalie. So rather than spending time answering it, it's kind of so poorly constructed that I don't understand what I would be answering. Here's one from Walt Reardon. First of all, thanks for your great service, and special hats off to your reviewers who take the time to provide detailed critiques concerning how to improve the songs. Extremely helpful. Well, thank you for saying that, Walt. Question, can you explain the process again concerning how some closings provide responses? I think he means some listings. You guys, you got to work on your question. Help me out here, will you? Come on. If I can't understand the question, I don't know how to answer it well. Some closings provide responses within a few days of closing, while others can take a month or more. I think you mean listing deadlines. Okay, so I'm going with that. I'm going to try and give a quick answer here. Bottom line is, sometimes, for a Japanese koto listing, we might only get 6 submissions. For a broken-hearted love song in the country genre, we will probably get 185 to 230. I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, but probably close. It takes more time to screen those. So just that simple. Fewer submissions, faster turnaround time. It helps me knowing if I hadn't heard something back in a few days that I may not hear back. Oh, that's part of another cause. Walt, you're killing me over here. Please refresh us on the process after a song, especially one for publishers' request for songs for artists can get back to us if interested. Anywhere from a week. It's impossible to say, and I wish I had a better answer for you, Walt. I really do. Every circumstance is a little different. Speaking in extremely general terms, I mean, put it this way, Faith Hill used to start looking for songs for her next record 2.5, 3 years before the record was ever cut. I was told several times that she and her team, mostly her team, being her manager, her A&R person, whoever else, would go through about 5,000 songs. 5,000 songs. That's a lot. And whittle it down to maybe 1,000, and whittle 1,000 down to a couple hundred, whittle those down to 100, then down to 50. And that's where she would probably get involved, is listening to the final 50. That process would take years. So it's different for every artist. That's probably on the extreme end of things. There's just no way to accurately answer. And I know I feel terrible because I poured my heart and soul into this song. It means so much to me. It does mean a lot to you. Maybe to the people you love who are close around you, your immediately family or best friends or something. It doesn't mean as much to people on the other end. And I don't mean that they might not love it. I mean that their priority in their day, in their work life, is not giving a quick turnaround to put your mind at ease because you're in pain waiting for an answer, and I'm sure you are. Getting you that fast answer is just not a priority for them. Things happen in the time in which they're supposed to happen. So I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer for you. Wow. Is that 5:32? I was chatty today. Do you want to hang out for another 5 or 10 minutes? Do you guys have any questions you want to ask? If you do, just write the word question in all caps so I can see it in case the chat room starts to scroll by quickly. Carl Wurzbach, how are you, buddy? And you were impressed by my video editing skills. Yeah. We had such problems. The software I use is called Wirecast, and it's comprehensive enough that you could literally broadcast like a soccer game or an NFL game using it if you had the super expensive, like, all bells and whistles version. I've got like a mid-level version of it. And I was so pissed off a couple of weeks ago where I had to blow that episode out at the last minute. I spent 7 hours trying to solve the problem. And what they did was they updated their software and eliminated consolidated a process that I used to know how to do. And there was a tab that I had to click to do it. And everything I have been doing routinely for years now using their software disappeared. Did they send out an email saying, by the way, if you use this very common aspect of our software, it ain't going to work like that anymore? They did not. They said they didn't update, and I'm sure that there was a mile-long thing of fine print about the update. But for something that virtually every user of their software uses every time they use it, you would think they would say, by the way, you don't do it like that anymore. So I spent 7 hours trying to figure out what was wrong. I was trying different browsers. I updated the software on my Mac laptop, which was way out of date. And that just made everything else worse. So painful experience. And so I checked out. There's another thing I know. My buddy Dave uses it on... can't think of his last name at the moment. Dave Croft uses it, and it's called StreamYard. And it's idiotically simple, but unfortunately it doesn't do a couple things that I needed it to do. So I decided to stick with Wirecast, but it's just so frustrating. It's maddening and it's embarrassing. But anyway, got it sussed out for now. All right, I didn't see any questions come in. John Jonks Official. If pitching for an exclusive, does that preclude me from releasing the song on Spotify under my artist name if the submission is not for a label artist but for advertising, TV, etc.? Different libraries would answer that question a different way. Different publishers in the film and TV sync world would answer that in a different way. Sometimes I've seen cases where people have had stuff out there on Spotify or YouTube or whatever, and they go to sign an exclusive contract, and the publisher might say, would you take it down? It's a fair request. Other publishers are like, yeah, keep it up there because now I'm the publisher and I'm going to make money from your efforts. So, and there's it does get a little squirrely with advertising. Ad agencies and the brands that they work with sometimes don't like a piece of music that's already been out there in the wild. They want it to sound and feel like it was created especially for this ad. Here is, yeah, I've played with OBS. OBS is very good. It's open source, and what I'm using, Wirecast, is supposed to be an easier version. It's kind of like competitive. OBS is pretty pro. Wirecast is an easier version of that, and you pay for it. When I spent a long weekend with OBS one year and just went, okay, there's too much about this that I'll never use, so I passed on it, but thank you for suggesting it. Question, did I miss that one? Question, efficiently sizing up the quality and effectiveness of a library. Colin, that's not a question. If that were in question form, pretend we're on a game show, Colin. If that were in question form, would it be, how can I efficiently size up the quality and effectiveness of a production music library? First thing you could do would be ask your fellow taxi members, because they're probably in it and they could tell you. Now you got to remember, some people might, it could be an A-rated library, not that there's actually like a rating system for them, but let's assume it's a very, they've been around for 25 years. You know, it's a library that's got a great reputation with the editors, with the showrunners, and with the people who have music in there. But you happen to pick the one person to, what do you think about Joe's library? I don't know, man. I've got 16 tracks in there, and they have not gotten me a single placement. All of a sudden you think, wow, bad library. But the reason is Joe does drones. And shows that use drones aren't using a lot of drones this year. So Joe's music is laying there like a lox. Did the library have all of the best intentions when they signed it? Absolutely. They don't do the paperwork and the due diligence on a piece of music if they don't think they can make money with it. Why would they? They're not signing it because it's pretty music and they like it. They're signing it because they want to make money. They are a business that happens. Their product is music. So don't just take one person's word for it. Somebody else could be in that same library and does a lot of acoustic love songs that happen to be the hot thing with a certain show where they work with that music supervisor, and the show's been around for 7 or 8 years. So they get a lot of really good placements that are like, $3,500 up to $10,000 sync fees. It's on broadcast television on NBC. Yay for everybody involved. That person loves that library. And yet somebody else who does drones laying there like a lock. So, but I'm impressed by the fact that you want to check them out. Best thing you can do, which surprisingly people don't, is go look at the library at their website and see the shows that they've had placements with. Because believe me, they will throw them up there. Although it's a pain in the butt to do it, but they will eventually get around to it. And you can see, oh, look at that. Like 80% of the shows they work with are non-scripted, like, The Bachelorette or Ginsu Kitchen or whatever, something on Food TV, on a Food Network. Look at the shows they work with where they've had placements and go, would my music work for those shows? That's everything you need to know. If it's a library you're getting into because of Taxi, know that we have vetted them. We've done all that research. We've asked people we know, how long have you been in their catalog? How many, do you get a lot of placements from them? Do we know the owner? In many cases, we know the owner of these things. We had a guy come by the office and spend, I don't know, probably an hour and a half with us about a week ago. A very high-end music company. I don't want to disclose more at this point, but a very high-end company. Really cool people. And they want to expand what they're doing. They have a catalog. Mostly they are making music for stuff in-house, but they also have a catalog of stuff, and they want to grow the catalog. Well, that's fine. I just saw a glitch on... Whoa. I'm seeing glitches. I'm not touching anything, and those glitches are happening. All right. I'm going to wrap this episode up before Wirecast just completely goes to hell on me. Anyway, we spent 2 hours with the guy. He was sizing us up. We were sizing him up. We were all really liked each other, and you are going to start seeing listings from that company in the relatively near future. And yay, we are currently bringing in some new taxi clients once again. We've brought in more new clients in the last year than probably in any single previous year. So it's a great time to be a member, and it's a great time to be an active member. What about using AI-assisted singers? Would that be a problem? It depends. If it's something that's going on a TV show, yeah, it's a problem. If it's a demo that vocal is never going to make it to air or to a record, that's okay. Anyway, thank you for hanging out. It's so funny. You guys are like, I love this show. Great show tonight. I always laugh because it's the least amount of work for me to do these. Some of the other shows, I'll spend 3-4 hours on a Sunday getting ready for a show on Monday. There you go. So thank you for letting me do an easy one. Next week, as I mentioned, will be Biagio. He's great. And we already taped the show, and I know it's really good. So that's it, folks. See you soon. Let me get my little earbuds on so I can hear that music. Whoops. Be back next week, 4 o'clock, for another exciting episode of TAXITV Live. Don't forget to mark in your calendar Taxi Road Rally, November 5th through the 8th. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.